What she saw was terrifying. 2013 and Amy took her dog outside and put her on a leash to use the bathroom before bed. She would always stay outside for a few minutes and then scratch on the door to get back in. But Amy was startled when just a few seconds later the dog started scratching at the door. Thinking it was way too soon, she looked through the peephole. That's when she saw a deranged looking man standing there with something behind his back, looking directly at the door handle, just waiting to be let in. When she didn't open, he scratched at the door again. Frightened but remembering her dog was still out there, she ran to the side window to see if she could see her, but she was gone. She ran back to the door looking through the hole and the man had vanished, but her dog was there waiting to get in. The scary thing was that the leash had been cut, meaning the man had a knife. Follow because my next story is crazy. Is time travel possible? This is a question that has been debated for centuries. Some believe it is possible, while others feel that it could be possible with the right technology. At Thompson Park in New York City, there have been reports of visitors experiencing what could be considered time slips or distortions. Several people have come forward saying that they've gotten lost or become disoriented in the park, despite only being gone for just a short amount of time. Furthermore, investigators have noticed an unusually high electromagnetic field surrounding the park, which may provide evidence of time travel possibilities. Whether or not these occurrences are signs of time travel remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: Thompson Park has a mysterious aura about it. Follow because my next story is crazy. What is the government not telling us about this hole? There is a mysterious 80,000 feet deep hole in Washington State right next to the Yakima Training Center. Mel Waters, who made a call to the local radio station back in 1997, has described strange occurrences near that hole, such as black beams shooting out of it and his neighbor's dead dog coming back to life after being thrown in. Allegedly, Mel was paid off by the government to remain quiet about it, and satellite images of Mel's property has been intentionally blurred, leaving us to speculate what is going on. Follow because my next story is crazy. What happened to Kenny Veach? Kenny was a 47-year-old Las Vegas resident who made himself somewhat famous online after posting a comment on a YouTube video titled "Son of an Area 51 Technician." In his post, he claimed that he had found a strange cave shaped like an M while hiking near the Nellis Air Force Base that caused his body to vibrate and gave him feelings of dread. Kenny ventured out in the search of the cave a third time and never returned, prompting his girlfriend to file a missing person report. A search party was sent out, but his cell phone was found abandoned near an entrance to an old mine shaft. Despite extensive searches, no traces of Kenny have ever been found, and what happened to him remains unknown. What do you think happened to Kenny? Follow because my next story is crazy. Did this man step through a time portal? In 1996, Frank was on Bold Street in Liverpool shopping with his wife when he had a strange experience. As he attempts to cross the road, he was almost hit by a car. When he looked up, everything around him had changed. Dylan's bookstore, which is where he was headed, was gone, and a store selling what seemed like outdated woman's clothing was in its place. Everyone around him seemed to be dressed decades older than he was. Suddenly, he noticed a young girl dressed in 90s fashion entering the shop and quickly followed, only to find that it had become Dylan's once again. Was Frank passing through a time portal? Follow because my next story is crazy. This story will give you chills. Adrian's parents left on a date on Friday night and Adrian stayed home to work on some school papers. He was wearing noise-canceling headphones so he couldn't hear anything else. A few hours later, his mom yelled from downstairs and he took off his headphones to find out what she wanted. She was standing in the living room looking at muddy footprints on the rug. Adrian looked around. He hadn't left his desk. They realized that no footprints were leaving the house. Suddenly, terror fills their mind. Someone is still in the house. They race into the garage and phone the police, who arrive quickly, making a chilling discovery upstairs. Adrian's bedroom door had been left open all night, and written on it with a Sharpie was a minute-by-minute breakdown of everything Adrian was doing, indicating that for hours someone had been watching him from his doorway. Follow because my next story is crazy. She should have burned the house down. It was 1989 and Cindy just moved into her new home in California. She was sitting in her living room reading the paper when she hears a strange noise coming from the attic, as if someone was crawling around and tapping on the ceiling. Scared but wondering what was happening, she pulls down the attic access. That's when she saw it. A figure that appeared to be an older man staring right at her. and then he just disappeared. Sure, it was a ghost, she called up a team of paranormal investigators, and what happens next proved something sinister was going on. Two men arrived, not sure that what they'd been told was true. They walk through the front door and the lights just go out, and it's now pitch black in the home. Seconds later, one of the men lets out a scream and then goes silent. Not having a flashlight, the other investigator uses the camera flash to look around the room, capturing one of the creepiest photos in paranormal history. His partner is tied to a beam on the ceiling. Follow because my next story is crazy. Miley Cyrus saw a ghost. During her Bangers World Tour, she discovered a ghost living in an old apartment that she was staying in. She first became suspicious when she spotted a small boy sitting on the sink while she was showering one evening. After some digging, Miley discovered that there was a bakery in the building owned many years ago by an old man and his sick wife. It was this couple who willed the bakery to their son before he passed away mysteriously. Follow because my next story is crazy. He lured them to a graveyard, but you won't believe why. Tony Costa was a man of two personalities, kinda gentle by day, murderous and violent by night. In the spring of 1958, several young women began to go missing in Cape Cod, and suspicion quickly fell upon Tony, who had recently arrived to the area. He had been luring unsuspecting women into a graveyard under the promise of drugs and a good time, but as soon as they were within reach, he would murder them before dismembering their bodies. Follow because my next story is crazy. They were waking up with their hair missing. In 1942, the residents of Pasco, Mississippi began to report sightings of a mysterious person, and people were waking up with their hair drastically cut or gone. Their homes had been broken into, but nothing was stolen, and to this day, the identity of the Phantom Barber remains a mystery. Follow because my next story is crazy. Did this card game predict the future? Illuminati New World Order seemed harmless, but people started noticing that its cards predicted major world events with eerie accuracy. Some believed the game was a warning from the future sent to prepare us for horrors that were to come. But why has it suddenly disappeared from store shelves? Was it created by the Illuminati or time travelers attempting to change history? Follow because my next story is crazy. This man adopted a dog, but angry Karens wanted it gone. In a heartwarming tale that turned sour, Dan Hillary's adoption of a new dog named Diggy led to trouble with the law. Despite Diggy being an American bulldog, mistaken identity caused panic when a viral selfie showed the two together. As a pit bull is illegal in Dan's town, police demanded that he give up the beloved animal or face consequences. After months of legal battles, justice prevailed as the judge ruled in favor of Dan and Diggy's companionship. She should have chosen a different apartment. Sally was moving into a new apartment when she notices a crawl space above the ceiling but thinks nothing of it. One night while watching TV, she is frightened by a tiny woman out on her fire escape trying to break in. She hides and calls the cops while the intruder tries to open the locked windows. Moments later, Sally hears something crawling around above her and notices one of the ceiling tiles was missing. Then a deranged woman appeared staring from the hole before scurrying off back into the crawl space. It took the police 3 days to take the deranged woman into custody. Follow because my next story is crazy. This 17-year-old girl lived a nightmare. As she sat in her living room late at night, the darkness outside creeping in, she was suddenly startled by a motion detection light in her driveway flickering on. Initially dismissing it as just an animal, she drew the blinds and tried to calm her nerves. But that's when it happened again, and this time it was followed by an aggressive banging on the window. She could barely make out the silhouette of a person behind the blinds. Fear took hold of her as she stood up and threatened to call the police, but the figure only paused for a moment before sprinting to the side door and pounding even harder. With trembling hands, the girl ran to the bathroom and barricaded herself inside, desperately waiting for the police to arrive. But her terror was far from over. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the quiet house, sending chills down her spine. She waited in silence, afraid to move or even breathe, until finally she opened her door just a crack to see what was happening. And there, standing in her living room next to a broken window, was a crazed old woman, her wild eyes fixed on the girl. The woman started sprinting towards her, and then the girl slammed the door shut shut, her heart pounding in her chest. The woman pounded on the door with fury that seemed inhuman until the sound of approaching sirens finally drowned her out. As police took the woman away, the girl couldn't shake the feeling that something otherworldly had just invaded her home. Follow for more creepy stories. Most haunted places in America. In Philadelphia lies Eastern State Penitentiary, a former prison that was built in 1829. It introduced the Philadelphia system, which used solitary confinement as a form of rehabilitation. Inmates were isolated with a black hood over their heads whenever they left their cell. However, due to the harshness of the approach, many prisoners were driven to insanity and the system was scrapped in 1913. Since then, the prison has been used regularly and even housed notorious criminals like Al Capone and Willie Sutton. But ever since its abandonment in 1971, reports of paranormal experiences have increased. Shadowy figures quickly turn away when approached, and strange sounds like disembodied footsteps, distant talking, and banging of cell doors have been heard. There have been reports of a dark figure in the guard tower and an evil cackling coming from cell block 12. Shadowy figures have been seen sliding down walls in cell block 6, while ghostly faces have been witnessed in cell block 4. Visitors claim to feel the presence of a spirit or to have been touched by unseen hands. The abandoned Eastern State Penitentiary is a place that sends shivers down the spine of all who dare to enter. Follow because part 2 is crazy. Who is the Bunny Man? In 1902, a bus carrying a group of mental patients crashed on the way to the prison. All the inmates were captured except for one, Douglas Griffin. He was a man obsessed with rabbits, and as the weeks went by, dead rabbits began appearing all over the woods. But it didn't end there. People reported seeing a man in an Easter Bunny costume lurking around town. He would interact with innocent children only to break into their homes and slaughter their parents with an axe before kidnapping them. And then one fateful night, the Bunnyman's reign of terror came to a gruesome end when he was hit by a train while attempting to flee from the authorities. Or did he? Legend has it that he lurks under the old Colchester Bridge in Fairfax County. Could it be that the Bunnyman is still out there lurking in the shadows, waiting for his next victim? Follow because my next story is crazy. Most haunted places in America. Deep in the heart of Kentucky lies the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Once a place of healing, it now serves as a chilling reminder of the horrors that occurred within its walls. The building that stands today was erected in 1926, replacing the original two-story wooden structure that was opened in 1910. However, the building's true history is more sinister than the construction suggests. For decades, Waverly Hills served as a tuberculosis hospital where patients suffered and perished at the hands of experimental treatments. Over 63,000 souls are believed to have died within its walls, the tortured spirits haunting the premises to this day. Those brave enough to enter Waverly Hills have reported witnessing apparitions, fleeting shadows, and disembodied voices echoing through the halls. The cameras of Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, and Most Haunted have all captured strange occurrences, including the ghost of a boy named Tim who roamed the halls at night. Sudden cold spots, screams from empty rooms, and unexplainable footsteps have also been experienced by those who dare to enter. The dark history and lingering spirits of Waverly Hills Sanatorium make it one of the most haunted buildings in all of America. Enter at your own risk, for the ghosts that reside within are waiting to greet you. Follow because part 3 is crazy. Is this proof that reincarnation is real? In Syria, a 3-year-old boy became a focal point of eerie attention. According to Druze belief, birthmarks are related to death in the past lives, and the 3-year-old had a long bright red mark on his head. As soon as he learned to speak, he revealed the disturbing truth. He had been killed with an axe blow to the head. The elders of the Druze community knew what to do. They took the boy back to the village of his past life, and he remembered everything, from the village to the name that he once had. The locals confirmed that the man he claimed to be had vanished 4 years prior. Then the boy stunned everyone by naming the man who killed him down to his full name. When the alleged killer was questioned, his face turned white as snow, but he refused to confess. The boy then led the elders to the burial site, where they discovered the remains of a man with a head wound that matched the boy's birthmark. And to make matters worse, the axe used to murder the man was found buried alongside him. The killer, unable to deny the evidence any longer, finally admitted to his crime. Follow because my next story is crazy. Death, deception, and a stolen invention. The world had never seen anything like it before. Stanley Alan Mayer's invention had the potential to change the course of history. A car that could travel 180 kilometers on 1 gallon of water. It was almost too good to be true. People flocked from all over the country to catch a glimpse of the car in action, desperate to witness the miracle for themselves. But then everything changed. On a fateful night in March 1998, Stanley and his brother were meeting with two potential foreign investors at the restaurant. It was supposed to be a night of celebration and a culmination of years of hard work and dedication. But then, Stanley took one sip of cranberry juice and everything went horribly wrong. His face turned pale and he began to violently vomit, screaming that he had been poisoned. He stumbled out into the parking lot where he collapsed onto the ground and died. And just 1 week later, his garage was broken into and his water-powered car was stolen without a trace. The official cause of Stanley's death was ruled as natural causes, but many believed that the people who ran the oil and gas industry were responsible for his demise. They couldn't let his invention threaten their monopoly on energy. And now the car is gone, lost forever in the hands of unknown thieves. It's a mystery that will haunt the world forever. Follow for more creepy, dark, and mysterious content like this.